Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of Credit Coaching by Christy. I am so glad that you are here with us today. I have a very special guest, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different than my norm. And I'm also thinking about placing this on my YouTube channel at Credit Christy. So would love to see you over there as well. You'll get to see us live and in person. Well, not necessarily live, but definitely in person. So my very special guest today is S.E. Day. And SE is a business credit expert, a legal analyst, a business owner, and of course, a published author. After starting and operating more than 25 different companies and partnerships, SE realized business credit was difficult, if not nearly impossible, as far as a feat to accomplish. So after more than 16 years of focused research, SE created For Small Business Only, with one goal in mind, and that is to provide small business owners with the tools and knowledge that they need to successfully establish and build a viable and sustainable business or a business credit for their company. So SE, welcome to the show. So glad to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much, Christy. Thank you. You must have been shopping around a website or something and found that information out there.
I knew from the moment that we were introduced that I was amongst a really amazing company. So great to know that background about you. And we've had many conversations. You've taught me a ton. I've learned a lot from you. You are making a huge impact in the business world when it comes to establishing credit. And although the majority of my listeners may be listening in for personal credit development and understanding, I believe that there is a big, huge audience out there that wants and needs to know more about establishing proper business credit. How do you get it started? What do you do then? What are maybe some of the obstacles? So I wanted to turn the floor over to you and just absorb all the goodness that you're about to share with us. So SE, take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Christy. And by the way, congratulations on your book.
Thank you. I
It's
appreciate it.
amazing to see another author putting out information that's actually helping the everyday person. These are tricks and tips and tools that, a first-time home buyer can use to win. And as I, thought about it for years, you'll go into something, buying a house, for instance. That's a major purchase. And then sometimes it's the largest purchase that people make in their lives, and they're doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
There's no lawyer, you don't have all of the tools that you need. So your book is going to be wonderful for the first time home buyer.
Thank
Pick
you.
it up if you don't already have it. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
jumping into credit. And I understand your audience is, a lot of them focus on the personal credit, right? How to get themselves back to where they need to be. And that's a minefield within itself, right? But what your audience has to understand is personal credit is a staple for when you're trying to build business credit. Okay, we all remember the tragic day, 9/11, right? It was tragic for our country. But after 9/11, the banks actually won on something on the US Patriot Act. In the US Patriot Act, there's Section 326. Section 326 is verification of identification. And what that means is, in order for you to open up any account, your identity must be verified. Banks use that because in order for you to verify yourself in the US, you have to have a 9-digit number. And most of us only have one number, and that number is our Social Security number.
Yeah.
Well, in all actuality, your Social Security number is meant for Social Security and retirement purposes. But because that's the only number to verify us, the banks use that. So now, if you go in to open any account, personal account or business account, you have to verify your identity. Rightfully so, to curtail money laundering. But the problem with that is when you go to open up a business account, banks just tend to use your Social Security number more so than they use your tax ID number or your Dun and Bradstreet number to verify who you are, but also to issue credit. So this is where it lies. Your personal credit needs to be just as strong, when you're trying to build business credit because they look at one and the same. So let's dive into that business credit. Now, I'll just give you a little short story of how I got started on this. I went to this conference one, and it was filled with all of the alphabet soup, the FDIC, the Federal Reserve. All of these people were talking business credit at this conference. And there were over 200 participants at this event. The event was actually set up to figure out how to get small businesses financing. And the trick word of the day was business credit. Business credit to business credit, business credit. At the time, I was in radio. So, you know how they normally pass the microphone around. And they said, well, anybody have any questions? I raised my hand. Do you need a microphone? No, I can project very well. So my question to all of the alphabet soup, all of the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos, was, can anyone on this panel tell me how to go about establishing business credit? Crickets. No one knew how. Even the SBA, they didn't know how to go about establishing business credit. And when I told them, and during my research, I realized two things. Most small business owners think business credit is a myth. Okay. And the second thing is there is no standardized way across the different platforms to be able to create viable and sustainable business credit without your social security number. So they just all looked at me, and that led me down this path of creating tools and our signature platform that we use to help small businesses build credit. And what we realized is business credit is a whole lot simpler than personal credit. You just have to know how to do it, but no one tells you, right? So with business credit, you want to have an established business. And when I say established business, you need to be registered with your state agency, with your Secretary of State Corporation Division. You can be an LLC, you can be a corporation, you can be a subchapter corporation. Not so much a limited partnership or sole proprietor, because those are based on your individual credit. But with the others, the LLC, the subchapter corporation, or S Corp, or your general corporation, you have to understand that each one of those entities are a living entity, artificial entity without you. So if you start an LLC can live beyond you, beyond your years on earth. Same thing as a corporation or a subchapter corporation. So what you do is you want to start one of those. And time is your friend when it comes to credit. Things that your audience needs to remember. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon, right? So you're building things slowly. It takes time. I understand you want to jump into business and I want to get that business credit and I want to go and buy right now. You can't do that because banks need to know two things. One, they need to know where they can find you when they need you. And they need to understand that you are trustworthy and stable, right? You have revenue coming in. Now, you can take your great idea. Remember, I've had over 25 companies. And in each of those 25 companies, I had to start business credit all over every time. Nothing was transferable from one company to the other. So how do you go about that? Well, the first and foremost, get your company set up, right? Get it structured with the state. Now, this is very important. And I'll get to some of the little smaller things, but this is very important. Once you structure your company, you need to establish a business banking account. That can be just a checking account. That's fine. It needs to be in your company's name, attached with your company's tax ID number, as well as your company's Dun and Bradstreet number. This is important because in the business world, if we can't see transactions from a banking institution, you really don't have a business. So that's the second thing. You must establish a business checking account, not a doing business as. This is not SE Day doing business as for small business only. It's for small business only. Its own separate account that anybody can come in and take over if something happens to me. The company can still keep running. But another thing that you want to look at is how how many small small business owners and entrepreneurs, and this is a question that I'm asking you, the audience, how many of you know your industry classification codes for what you do? You're probably asking, what are you talking about? Well, if you are in the construction business has an industry classification code. If you're consulting, it has an industry classification code. For small business is in the education service, it has an industry classification code. So what you want to do is go to the website. It's free research, but it's NASIC. And Christy will put all of that information down for you. But you go and you look up your industry. Now, why is that so important? Okay, here's a little story. And it changed after the pandemic. So I got to talk pre-pandemic, right? Some of us are old enough to remember the days of a drive-in movie theater. Yeah, Christy, you're too young. You don't know about the drive-in movie theater, okay?
Right.
But the days of the drive-in movie theater, they had an industry classification code. Banks would look at it back in its heyday. If you had a drive-in movie theater, lenders realized that drive-in movie theaters were profitable. So they were willing to lend money towards that. Well, as time progressed, if you have a drive-in movie theater today and you're trying to go and borrow money, why would a bank lend you money when they can lend it to, say, Christy, because she wanted to start a theater, right? Mm-hmm. They're more apt to lend it to a movie theater company than a drive-in movie theater company. This is why your industry classification codes are so important. The construction industry, think about it. If you're in the construction industry right now, it is one of the most booming industries in the market right now. You have a construction company, banks are willing to lend you money because they know people are needing housing, right?
Yes.
So this is why your industry classification codes are so important. They are so important. And then here are a few little things. I know Christy said there were 4 things that she wanted me to talk about. I'm going to sneak in another one.
Go for it.
When you think about this, if you're trying to do business with a company, you want that company to be credible, right? You want to be able to go online and look up that company. Think about you as a company. Companies want to make sure you are credible. How many of you, audience, again, how many of you have a business or thinking about starting a business? And let's say your company is named ABC Widgets. What is your email address? Is it abcwidgets@gmail.com?
Likely.
Or is it more than likely it is?
Yeah.
Or is it your name at abcwidgets.com? Well, when a lender looks at ABC Widgets and they see abcwidgets@gmail.com, they already know that you are just starting out. You have to represent yourself as the big companies. Christy, I wrote a book. If you don't mind me showing it, I'll talk about it. It's called Mastering the Business Credit Maze. Build business credit like big corporations do. In that, it tells you how to go from start to sustainability in building your business credit, right? The things you want to have in place. You want to have a designated number. See, we're still dealing with the old guard when it comes to lending, right? Everybody, who has a landline? I don't. Christy, you got a landline in your place? No, most people don't. Most people have cell phones. Mm-hmm. But the old guard still looks at landlines, right?
Yes.
Well, one of the things that we talk about in the book is, what can you do to provide your business with a landline? Well, nobody, there's no more Bell South or Bell anything. It's all AT&T and all this stuff now. But one of the things that you want to do is, there's a company called Magic Jack. Magic Jack is just one of them that has voice over internet protocol. But one of the things that we found out by accident, and we actually told Magic Jack this, that your company shows up with that little device. It shows up as a landline.
Interesting.
And not voice over internet protocol. So we suggest taking something like a Magic Jack, subscribing, buying you want to be the best $69, $59 you spend. Because once you get your designated number, that number shows up as your landline. Remember, lenders want to be able to find you when they need you. Okay. And that landline shows up as one of them. That's one of the things that you want, right?
Yeah.
To get that thing in place. So those little tidbits, get your email for your company. Also, get a landline for your company. And by all means, do not go to a UPS store and get a UPS box as your business address. Don't do that.
Why, Esty? Tell me why.
Because it's okay now for you to use your home address as your business.
Okay.
Because what happened over years, people would go down to the UPS store and get them a mailbox and say that's their business address. Well, because they didn't want to use a PO box or something like that. They wanted to actually have a box. They'll say it's a suite. Well, once lenders start doing their due diligence, they actually research you. And if they pull that address up and see that it's a UPS store, it sends up red flags. And the reason it sends up red flags is because of fraud. Mm. There were people that would set up business accounts, right? And they'd go to somebody like AT&T, and they want to get cell phones for their company, right? Those phones are about $1,000 a phone. So you get a business account set up, you get 20 phones, that's $20,000 that someone could take and now sell on the black market. So it was fraudulent. And the companies, the lenders started saying, no, those things aren't credible. If you have a home address, you can use your home address. Again, lenders want to know where you are when they need you. So if you use your home address, we know you're not trying to run away from anything. You're not being fraudulent. So little things like that. Make sure you set up a business account. Make sure you know your NAICS codes. Also, make sure you have an email address, you have a landline, got that bank account going on, right? And you have a verifiable address. So those are little things that we talk about in the book of how you go from start to sustainability and building your business credit. Christy, I hope, and this is my shameless plug, I hope you have me back on in the future because we can talk about some other things that actually show your audience how to walk themselves to that point. And before I turn it back over to you, Christy, another thing I have to say. I started out by saying business credit is a whole lot easier than personal credit. Because once you have these things in play, you can start with those things called a foundational account, right? So what are foundational accounts? Well, think of your house. Your house is built on a foundation. That makes you solid. If your house is not built on a foundation or it's built on sand, it can crumble. Well, that's the same thing these foundational accounts do. So you look at companies like, for instance, Quill Office Products. Quill is one of those companies that will give you a net 30. So when you hear a foundational account, think net 30 accounts. That means the company will give you 30 days to pay your bill instead of you having to pay the money instantly. What that does for you is it starts to build a platform where as you advance more in the future and look for more credit, companies can turn and look back and say, okay, well, he's been with Quill for 2 years. He's had regular transactions, and these regular transactions show that this person is able to place an order, pay their bill within 30 days, and keep their business credit score up. Remember, trustworthy. That was the number 2 thing I talked about when it comes to lenders. They want to make sure that you're trustworthy and you're stable. Foundational accounts are your primary piece of building your business to the point where you can actually start to build that business credit. And of course, we talk about that in the book, how you go from foundational to your bank accounts or your charge accounts, then till you get into your structured loans, secured and unsecured loans in your business name. So, Christy, I just talk, I can talk. It's back to you. What do you have?
Thank you, Essie. This is super information. And, it kind of parallels to, in my world, being a mortgage loan officer. Sometimes people will
Mhm.
come to me and they have nothing in their name, not on their credit, and not even where we could try to almost create a pseudo credit report. If you have nothing in your name, you have no evidence or supporting documentation to prove to a decision maker, which is typically an underwriter, your ability to
Right,
borrow money and pay back on time. And,
right,
I've heard it said years ago, if you want to know where somebody's, mind and attention and desires are, look at
yep,
their calendar and look at their checkbook, right? So
yep, exactly.
decision makers are also looking at what kind of transactions are happening inside of your business bank account. I think this is solid, amazing information because unfortunately, a lot of people will start an LLC and say, well, I'm the sole person on it. So it's okay that I just, intermingle my business and my personal expenses.
No, no, no. Okay, go ahead.
And you probably have a thing or two to say about that. So I will put into the comments, the NAICS is the way my
Yes.
brain looks at it. So that information. Also, I've got a couple of websites I could put in for like Quill and those kind of foundational accounts.
Hmm.
I encourage setting up a business bank account. I love working with community banks because I think that the community banks are the heart and soul
Yes.
of our neighborhoods and our community structures. So I want to do business with a neighbor. I think business bankers, when you walk into that branch manager, that banker can actually teach you, even more than what you might find at a resource like this or online. That might be specific to their bank and their products, but also just might be
Absolutely.
to you and your situation. So they might be able to provide
Yes.
some individual and personalized guidance that way. But there's nothing wrong with if you wanted to start something with a big national chain. Nobody ever said you have to only have one account. So, but establishing those accounts with the banks, establishing those foundational accounts. I'll also put in a link of where you get your EIN, right, for
Yes.
the
Absolutely.
IRS. And it just, if you wouldn't mind just kind of wrapping up talking about, because I triggered you there, right? And I see
Hmm.
it all the time, but it is such a big no-no. And I think that that would be really important information to leave our listeners with why that is significant to have a separate bank account so you're not intermingling.
Okay, absolutely. You saw me going all crazy on the screen. Those people that are coming on your YouTube channel, like, what is wrong with this guy? Why is he switching his hands like this? When it comes to banking, you have to understand that once you start a business, you can actually be convicted for embezzling money from your own company. Okay, that's a no-no. So when Christy mentioned commingling funds, right? I'm the sole proprietor. I use everything out of my personal checking account. Well, in the lending world, it looks as if you are taking money. Your company's business account is your slush fund. You need to pay your mortgage this month, or you need to put gas in your car because you're going out on a dinner date with your significant other, or you're going to take a trip, a personal trip. You're pulling money out of your business account. That looks bad. So it's important to have that business relationship. And I'll get into that relationship with the bank in just a second. But you want to have those accounts separate. My accounts are totally separate. In fact, that my business account and my personal account are not even with the same bank.
It's probably
Okay,
good
it's it's
line of
it's
thought.
a good move because what you don't want to see is that appearance of. So my business account, and this is going to the small banking relationship. It's all about relationships, right? And Christy knows this. An underwriter does not know you, the individual. They will talk to Christy. They don't know you. All they're looking at is your picture, and your picture happens to be your credit report, your debt to income ratio. It's up to you how you paint your portrait. If it's a Picasso, a Jackson Pollock, or is it something that your first grader did? And this is no strike against your first grader because they could be a Picasso one day, right? But this is what the underwriter looks at. So if your picture comes in, if your portrait is a beautiful portrait,
Yeah.
they're going to lend money to you. If not, you won't get the money. But it starts with relationships. When you build that relationship with that community bank, you walk in the door, that personal banker or that business banker gets to know you one on one. So when it comes time to you looking for money, they can go to bat for you because they can say, no, I know Christy. Christy has been coming in here for 5 years, making regular deposits. We know her family. We know where she lives. We talked to her. She's brought donuts by the office. This is a good thing. So when it comes to getting ready to get your loan, the underwriter feels at ease with lending you that money. So back to that commingling funds. It's important to, I mentioned earlier, as soon as you start your company, set up your business account, right? And your business account is separate from you. You only go into that business account when you need to. In fact, I don't even have a debit card to my business account. What do I need a debit card for? Because that means I can have easy access to money. I can go up to the bank and pull money out. How can you code that in your business ledger? You pulling money out of your account. You can have a credit card or you can have a business check, and oh, by the way, Christy, I forgot something. When you do your foundational accounts, there's a trick to the way you do this.
Okay.
So if you go on Quill, for instance, I use Quill as one of the many of them that are out there. If you go on Quill and you place an order, they're going to ask you, do you want to pay for it immediately? And you're going to say, no, I want a net 30. Yeah. They will send you an invoice. On your first payment, do not pay it with a debit card. I want you to write a check for that amount from your business check, right? It's going to have your name on the top and all that good stuff, and you as the signatory. You send that in a, snail mail, U.S. Postal Service, right? Send that in with the stamp. Here's the reason. It takes 30 to 60 days, 45 to 60 days for that account to actually hit your business credit report. So if you've done net 30 already, you got 30 days already knocked down. You write a check, that's another 15 days. It shows that you are paying your bills on time, right? Now, the next time you order, you can set up an ACH draft and you can do it with a debit card. But at least the first payment that you make on that foundational account, let it come from your business checking, a check instrument sent in the mail to the creditor. It bodes well. And one little simple thing when it comes to business credit, all you have to do, this is real simple, really simple, pay your bill on time.
What?
It's that simple. You pay your bill on time before, right? Before the due date, pay it on time, and you can go in that range between 80 and 85 to 90 on your Paydex score. Now, you hear me say Paydex score. That's something I just introduced to you, something new. Your Paydex score is kind of like your FICO score for your personal credit, but your Paydex score only goes up to 100. If you are in the 80 to 100 range, you have really good business credit. And the way you achieve that is real simple. Say it with me, Christy. Pay your bills on time. It's just that simple. Chrissy, this has been so much fun. This has been so much fun.
I seriously appreciate this. This is going to help so many people in a very, very big way. I'm going to have you back because you kind of dangled a little bit of, some treats there for us to come back and listen. But where can our listeners find your book? Because I know that there's an appetite for this information because it's just kind of not out there, right? And yeah. You know what you're talking about. You've got all of these years of amazing experience and information. So where can they find the book? Where can they find more about you?
If you go to our website, of course it's www, but it's F as in Frank, S as in Sam, B as in boy, only, fsbonly.com. fsbonly.com. You will see my information for small business only. And we design that for small businesses only. That's our main goal, helping them get to where they need to be so they can do business like big corporations.
Love that. And Essie, I know you're working on some really amazing things too to help new businesses that are starting and wanting business lending in their near future. So perhaps the next time you come back, you'll
Absolutely.
talk more about that.
Oh, absolutely. When I come back, we can talk about our signature piece.
Sweet.
Okay.
Awesome.
Real
Thank you
cool.
so much for being here. And to our listeners, I'll have the links in the comments as well, or not in the comments, in the informational section, so you can go there. And it has just been an amazing time with our friend S.E. Day. So thank you so much, S.E., for being here. And thank you to our listeners. So you know that I've got a YouTube channel at Credit Christie. If you're looking for information as well about the home buying process, I also have a YouTube channel called Your Loan Superhero. It's all about mortgage and financing and all of those questions that first-time home buyers have but don't know to ask. We've got some information there. And Essie also said, I've joined the published author club. So I do have a book called First Home, Where to Start and How to Win. And you can buy that on Amazon. So again, Essie, thank you for being here. Thank you to our listeners for being part of this with us. And until next time, my friends, stay well.
Thank you.
Subscribe now and share with a friend to stay in the loop for new credit content and insider tips to maximize your credit knowledge. And follow Credit Christie on Instagram.